Hi together. My name is Stefan Freiburghaus. This is a Swiss name. I was born in Switzerland and yes, I live in Sweden since 5 years. I like to study my Bible and I want to talk about the abomination of desolation. But before I start, I want to apologize. My English isn't perfect. I hadn't English in school. I've learned later here and there a little English, a word there, or a word here. So it will not be very perfect. Also, when I read through the Bible, but I think you will understand, and for sure, it is for me. It is a very, very important subject out of Matthew chapter 24, verse 15. We read there, "Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, whoever reads, let him understand." I read on from verse 16. "Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him who is on the housetop not go down to take anything out of his house, and let him who is in the field not go back to get his clothes. But who woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing babies in those days. And pray that your flight may not be in winter or on the Sabbath day. For then there will be great tribulation, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time. No, nor ever shall be. And unless those days were shortened, no flesh will be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened." Yeah, that sounds really urging and really, really important. So, since I started to read the Bible, that's now 27 years ago, uh, it was really interesting to me, and it it was always very important to know what is the abomination of desolation. So the Bible interprets itself. So if we read Luke chapter 21, and there the verses 20 and 21, and if we take care of the parallels to Matthew 24, uh, we can see that this what Christ said here in Matthew chapter 24, this happened in the year 66 after Christ. It was when Gaius Cestius Gallus, Roman chief, I don't know how to say, planted the pagan standards on holy ground. We know that after, in the year 70, Titus, a great general from the Roman army, came back with the whole army, and no one escaped out of Jerusalem. They died all really, really, really hard. You can read this in Flavius Josephus. He was a historian who lived in this time. So in Luke, you see, "But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies," and Matthew say, Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Sorry. So Ellen White wrote in The Great Controversy 25, when the idolatrous standards of the Romans should be set up in the holy ground, which extended some furlongs outside the city walls, then the followers of Christ were to find safety in flight. When the warning sign should be seen, those who would escape must make no delay. Throughout the land of Judea, as well as in Jerusalem itself, the signal for flight must be immediately obeyed. So clearly the Christians who knew about this text, they knew in the year 66 when Cestius was there and suddenly went back, they knew now we have to flee. 4 years later, Titus came and there was no escape anymore. So now the question is, was this the fulfillment, the only fulfillment? If we read Matthew 24, we know that the question of the disciples was, when do you come back to this world? And when will the temple, Jerusalem, be destroyed? So it was a double question. And we know that, Jerusalem was destroyed, but Jesus didn't came back to the same time. So interesting in this verse is that Jesus spoke about the book Daniel. So he says, therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet. So where did Daniel speak about the abomination of desolation? So we have to go to the Old Testament, to the book of Daniel, and we have to check out in which verses the word abomination of desolation is used. So in Hebrew text, there is one word, that's the word tobea, is a counterpart to abomination. The root of this word occurs in the Old Testament 118 times in 112 verses, but not once in the book of Daniel. The other counterpart, the root is sikus, and this occurs 46 times in the Old Testament, and thereof 3 times in the book of Daniel. So we find this word abomination of desolation 3 times in the book of Daniel. Here we have the 3 texts. I don't want to read through because we will study these 3 texts as follows. So this is Daniel 9:27, Daniel 11:31, and Daniel 12:11. So let's have a look on the first text, Daniel 9:27. Here we read, then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, but in the middle of the week he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. And on the wing of abominations shall be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation which is determined is poured out on the desolate. To understand this, I have a little graphic here. So in Daniel chapter 8, Daniel had another vision. He prayed, and he did not understand everything of this vision. He did not understand the part of the 2300 evening and morning. And now in Daniel 9, he understood that out of the book Jeremiah, that the 70 years of the time when they were in Babylon as slaves, they will finish. So he started in Daniel 9 to have a really deep word of prayer and of saying sorry to God for all what they have done in the past. And suddenly Gabriel, the angel, comes to Daniel and he says to him, now I come to help you understand. To understand what? Yeah, to understand what he didn't understood in the vision in the chapter 8 about the 2300 evening and mornings. And in this, he tells also in this what he says is also find this verse 27. So if we have a look on this graphic now, the 70 weeks Gabriel speaks about in Daniel 9, they started in the year 457 before Christ. So that was the decree from Artaxerxes in Ezra chapter 7. That was the third decree that the Jews are allowed to go back out of Babylon to Jerusalem to build up the city and the holy place, the temple, again. So the 70 weeks started 457 before Christ, and they ended 34 after Christ. So 70 weeks are 490 years. If you read through Daniel 9, you can read about 7 weeks, 62 weeks, and a last week. So after 7 weeks, that's 49 years, Jerusalem was rebuilt. That's in the year 408 before Christ. If we add another 62 weeks, so that we have like 69 weeks, we come to Jesus when he was baptized in the year 27. So, and then we have only 1 week, and that what Daniel 9:27 speaks about. Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. That was the life of Christ. 1 week, 7 years. Yeah. Yeah, it's not. It was not the whole time life, because in the mid of the week he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. That's what we read in Matthew when it says that the curtain was broken from up to down. So that was an end for the sacrifices. No sacrifices anymore, because Jesus died on the cross. And so everyone who wants to have forgiveness can pray to Jesus and will get it without doing a sacrifice. So if the text says now, and on the wing of abominations shall be one who makes desolate, then it's clearly after the mid of the week, after 31, when Jesus was died on the cross. So for sure, this text or the abomination of desolation points to the year 70 and the destruction of Jerusalem. So it has nothing to do with his second coming. Yeah, so I hope you understand. That was the first text, and this first text points to after 31, when Jesus was died on the cross. It points to the desolation of Jerusalem in the year 70. So let's study the second text, Daniel 11:31. There we read, "And forces shall be mustered by him, and they shall defile the sanctuary fortress. Then they shall take away the daily sacrifice." The word sacrifice is not found in the Hebrew. And place the abomination of desolation. So the daily sacrifice in Hebrew, the tamid, is used in Old Testament in connection with the daily and the regular sacrificial service. So therefore, almost all translations put the word sacrifice in. But for us only to know, the tamid is like the regular, daily, and for sure it has to do with the sacrifice. Yeah, that's first explanation. But we want to know forces by him. Who is meant? From whom is spoken about here? So if we read through Daniel 11, it's like the longest prophecy about about time and history. We have Daniel 2, then Daniel 7, and then Daniel 11. And Daniel 11 goes the most in the details. So in Daniel 11, we hear about the king of the north and the king of the south. Both are mentioned 7 times. And here it's spoken about the king of the north. So the question is, who is the king of the north? If we read Isaiah 14:13, there you read, "For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation on the farthest side of the north." So here is Lucifer, Satan, how we can read in Revelation 12, the snake, the dragon. So the fallen angel Lucifer wanted to be like God, and he wanted to sit on the throne in the farthest north. So who is the king of the north? In the Bible, God is the king of the north, but Satan, Lucifer, wants to have this seat, and he, when Revelation, when Daniel 11 is spokes about king of the north, then Satan is meant by. But we have to read another text to understand, right? In Revelation 13 verse 2 we read, "Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard, his feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like a mouth of a lion. The dragon gave him his power, his throne, and great authority." So here we know that it is spoken about the papacy, Roman Catholic Church, the institution, and this beast who comes out of the water in Revelation 13, and this beast becomes great power and the throne from the dragon. The dragon is Satan, Lucifer, the snake, yeah. And so if we read about the king of the north in Daniel 11, it's the dragon, but the dragon gives his power to to a worldly institution, so the papacy. That's the representative, his representative on earth. So if we read from the king of the north in Daniel 11, the papacy is meant. So another question is, if we read these texts, can we hear something, or do we think on parallels? I read again: forces shall be mustered by him, and they shall defile the sanctuary fortress. Then they shall take away the daily and place the abomination of desolation. So for me, it's really clear that absolute clear parallel to this text is Daniel 8. There we read from verse 10, and it grew up to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and some of the stars to the ground, and trampled them. He even exalted himself as high as the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice were taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. Yeah, so you see the parallels really clearly. Because of transgression, an army was given over to the horn to oppose the daily sacrifice, and he cast throws down to the ground. He did all this and prospered. So the little horn here mentioned in Daniel 8, that's also the papacy, Roman Catholic Church. So and what he does prosper it. So the question now, what we should ask or speak about is, when did the papacy begin to seduce? For this, I have some texts, some with prophetic time. Daniel 7:25, Revelation 12:6, Revelation 12:14, and Revelation. Yeah, I have written wrong. Offenbarung, that's in German, but you understand that's Revelation 13:5. And in all these texts, you have time prophecies. First, a time, two times or times, and half time. Then 1260 days, and again a time and a half time, and 42 months. So a time, two times and a half time, that's like one time is 360 for 1 year, two times is 720, and half a time is 180. So together this is 1260. Yeah, then we have the 1260 days. Now it's clear that it should be years. And then we have the 42 months. If we multiply this by 30, then we come also to 1260. So the texts speak always about the same time period. And this is mentioned. So if he prospers, if all what he does, the king of the north, the little horn, or the beast of Revelation 13, that's all the same thing, it's the papacy, and the 1260 years, that's the time of the dark Middle Ages. So when the papacy reigned on this earth and brought to death all who believed other things or believed really in Christ, yeah, and his salvation. So the question is now, when did this period begin? Because we are still looking on the second text out of Daniel 11, the verse 31, and we want to know when, to which time does this text point to, and what is the abomination of desolation. So if we read Daniel 7:8, I was considering the horns, and there was another horn, a little one coming up among them, before whom three of the first horns were plucked out by the roots. And there in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking pompous words. So here is again the little horn. Here is the time when the little horn comes up on the fourth beast, which is Rome. Yeah. So the first of the three horns was plucked out. This was the Vandals, 5-8 after Christ. The second was the Visigoths, 534. And the last horn was plucked out 538 after Christ, the Ostrogoths. So the papacy, the little horn, the first beast in Revelation 13, started, or the Middle Ages started in 538. And if we multiply now the 1360 years, then we end in 1798 after Christ, and that was when the beast of Revelation 13 verse 2 get his fatal wound. So that was when General Berthier in the French Revolution under Napoleon took the Pope Pius, I think it's the third or something like this. I'm not sure, but that it's not so important. And put him in prison, and there the Pope died. So that was the deadly wound. So so we can say, if in Daniel 11 is spoken about the king of the north and the papacy and the abomination of desolation, then we are for sure after the year 70. So it has nothing to do, the abomination of desolation has nothing to do with the destruction of Jerusalem in the year 70. For sure, when the papacy started these attacks, it was in the year 538, and for sure we are after the year 70. So let's have a look on the last verse. Sorry for my English, I am searching words, but I hope that you understand. Daniel 12:11. And from the time that the daily sacrifice is taken away and the abomination of desolation is set up, there shall be 1290 days. So I want to state again, the regular sacrifice, Tamid, was taken away from 538. So thus began the supremacy of the Roman Catholic Church. So the atonement of Jesus in heaven was kicked to the ground by heresy. So the Catholic Church built up a wrong salvation service. Yeah, we have to go to the priest to have sorry for our sins, but the Bible tells us we can come to Jesus, to Him alone, to become forgiveness for our sins. Yeah, so yeah, you understand, I hope. But now in this translation is a significant mistake in the translation. So the correct translation should be, and from the time that the daily sacrifice is taken away, to institute the abomination of desolation. It is 1290 days. So if we compare the two texts, the first version, it comes out of King James translation, says that from the time the daily sacrifice is taken away and the abomination of desolation is set up. So this says, yeah, it's almost on the same time that it happens. So we could say, okay, the abomination of desolation was set up from the time when the papacy fought against the daily. So we say in German Versöhnungsdienst, yeah, how to become if I do something wrong, I ask for sorry, and God gives me yeah, now you need this word. So yeah, doesn't matter. But the second reading, the correct translation, and from the time that the daily sacrifice is taken away to institute the abomination. So all this, what the papacy does since 538, is done with the goal to set up the abomination of desolation. So it has absolutely to do with the end of the time and the second coming of Jesus Christ. So for us now, it's important to know, really important to know what is meant by the abomination of desolation. Because we know the first interpretation was the destruction of Jerusalem. When the Christians saw the pagan, the Romans, then they knew now we have to flee, and absolutely in hurry. So yeah, here I have the interpretation of verse 12. We read 12:12, Daniel 12:12. Blessed is he who waits and comes to the 1335 days. So both of these times end in 7098. You can read this here on the PowerPoint presentation. So, but now we should read on to know what is the abomination of desolation in the end time. So in the year 1885, in Testimonies for the Church, Ellen White wrote the following, that you find in volume 5 on page 464. It's no time now for God's people to be fixed their affections or laying up their treasures in the world. The time is not far distant when, like the early disciples, we shall be forced to seek a refuge in desolate and solitary place. And now the parallel comes, as the siege of Jerusalem by the Roman armies was the signal for flight to the Judean Christians, so the assumption of power on the part of our nation in the decree enforcing the papal Sabbath will be a warning to us. It will be then time to leave the large cities preparatory to leaving the smaller ones for retired homes in secluded places among the mountains. So the parallel is, as the siege of Jerusalem by the Roman armies was the signal for flight to the Judean Christians, so the assumption of power on the part of our nation in the decree enforcing the papal Sabbath will be a warning to us. So when we see that the Sunday law is coming, the wrong day of praying, of devotional with God, then this is the sign for us. There is another quote here in Testimonies for the Church, volume 5, page 451. By the decree enforcing the institution of the papacy in violation of the law of God, our nation, that means is the US, will disconnect herself fully from righteousness. When Protestantism shall stretch her hand across the gulf to grasp the hand of the Roman power, when she shall reach over the abyss to clasp hands with spiritualism, when under the influence of this threefold union our country shall repudiate every principle of its constitutions as a Protestant and republican government, and shall make provisions for the propagation of papal falsehoods and delusions, then we may know that the time has come for the marvelous working of Satan and that the end is near. So, and then important, really important, as the approach of the Roman armies was a sign to the disciples of the impending destruction of Jerusalem, so may this apostasy be a sign to us that the limit of God's forbearance is reached, that the measure of our nation's iniquity is full, and that the angel of mercy is about to take her flight, never to return. So, yeah, these are really urging words and really, really important words spoken here from Ellen White. So, as Thestius in the year 66 came to Jerusalem, then the Christians knew, now we have to flee. So, and the same is if we see the abomination of desolation, which is the Sunday law, coming, here is spoken about make and shall make provision for the propagation of papal falsehood, so of the Sunday law, then we know that we should flee. Then we know that we should go out of the cities and prepare. And these provisions and this threefold union has taken place in the year 14 on July 7th. So here we have the Pope with the whole evangelical alliance. So all big and nameful evangelical were in the with the Pope on this day. And so we have the Protestantism, the strongest Protestantism which you found in world, and we have also the spiritualism. If you have a look on the man on the left side in the picture, in the photo, in front is his wife. His name is John Arnott, and he is one of the founding preachers of the Catch the Fire Church in Toronto, there where the Toronto Blessing started. And if you want to have a look on him on YouTube and on the sermons, then you will see that that's not really not godly what they do. There is a false spirit on work. So you have here absolutely what is mentioned in the how you say, in the quote of Ellen White. You have the Protestantism, you have the Roman power, and you have the spiritualism. So the preparations for Sunday law, for sure, they are done. So that was that's the same when Cestius in the year 66 was in front of Jerusalem. So let's have a look to some urging quotes from Ellen White. This comes from 1897, the book Country Living. Country Living is a compilation, but it was found in letter 9016. So the Protestant world have set up an idol Sabbath in the place where God's Sabbath should be. Yeah, Protestants have taken the Sunday, and they are treating in the footsteps of the papacy. Yeah. For this reason, I see the necessity of the people of God moving out of the cities into retired country places, where they may cultivate the land and raise their own produce. Thus, they may bring their children up with simple, healthful habits. I see the necessity of making haste to get all things ready for this crisis. Yeah, interesting. It's a long time ago that she wrote this. In Manuscript 50, written in year 1903, she says, the time has come when, as God opens the way, families should move. That's interesting how she reads that, as God opens the way. That's really important. Yeah, families should move out of the cities. The children should be taken into the country. The parents should get as suitable a place as their means will allow. Though the dwelling may be small, yet there should be land in connection with it that may be cultivated. Some families who have been separated may be united in such places. General Conference Bulletin, 6th April 1903. But ere long there will be such strife and confusion in the cities that those who wish to leave them will not be able. We must be preparing for these issues. This is the light that is given me, she wrote. And then, it is God's design that our people should locate outside the cities, and from these outposts warn the cities and raise in them memorials for God. There must be a force of influence in the cities that the message of warning shall be heard. So the idea is not only that we go out of the cities and be there all along for us, yeah, it's good to be alone and to be in the silence. We think about Moses, who was 40 years in the silence, or John the Baptist, who prepared in the silence in the desert. That's really, really important. And I enjoy that very much because we live now since 5 years here out in the country in Sweden. But the idea is also that we go to the people, that we go to the large cities, and that we give testimony from Jesus. We have to pray about how this has to be done the best. And I think we don't have to lose time in doing this. Next quote out of Manuscript 85. Who will be warned, we say again, out of the cities? Do not consider it a great deprivation that you must go into hills and mountains, but seek for that retirement where you can be alone with God to learn His will and way. Yeah, that's so important. You know, our world is so fast and our days are faster and faster. We want to have more money, we want to buy more, we want to go to have holidays and there is no silence anymore. When we come home, we go to the TV or the internet and we go to sleep at 12 o'clock or later. We eat bad stuff and yeah, that's not what God wanted us to do. We are the temple of His Spirit. So it's really good to go out in the country to the silence. I urge our people to make it their life work to seek for spirituality. Christ is at the door. This is why I say to our people, do not consider it a privation when you are called to leave the cities and move out into the country place. Here there await rich blessings for those who will grasp them. By beholding the scenes of nature, the works of the Creator, by studying God's handiwork imperceptibly, you will be changed into the same image. And that's what God wants us to to do. He wants to change us in the image we were created first in Genesis, yeah, to His image, and he wants to bring us back to this image. And yeah, so we have to live in this what he created, and not in the gray cities, if possible. Yeah, now a last quote, and I guess it's very important, out of the book Country Living 27. Let there be nothing done in a disorderly manner, that there shall be a great loss or sacrifice made upon property because of ardent, impulsive speeches which stir up an enthusiasm which is not after the order of God, that a victory that was essential to be gained shall, for lack of level-headed moderation and proper contemplation and sound principles and purpose, be turned into a defeat. Let there be wise generalship in this matter, and all move under the guidance of a wise, unseen counselor, which is God. So, yeah, I'm sure that since 214, preparation were laid down to come out with the Sunday law. So that's the same thing when Cestius in the year 66 was in Jerusalem, out of Jerusalem. So the time has come to leave the cities. The time has come to prepare, to pray. But nothing has to be done in disorder. Pray and wait until God opens the way. Pray and ask Him, Lord, what shall we do? And yeah, He says, like, ask, you will be given. Knock on the door, it will be open. Yeah. So for sure, God will listen to our prayers. But I'm sure that now is the time to act and prepare for this big crisis, because I'm sure that crisis will be so big that, yeah, you there in some places it will not be the possibility to go out of the cities. Yeah, I hope that you understood. Sorry for my bad English, but yeah, think about, pray about, and yeah, I hope to bring another presentation sometime in English. Be blessed and have a good time. Bye bye.